Welcome everyone to Bobcat Sports Talk. My name's Jessica Carter. I'm here with my two co-hosts, Jay Riley and Josh Beasley. Our first topic we're going to start off with is fantasy football. What do you think about that, Jay?
Last night I watched the Denver Broncos take on the defending Super Bowl champions, none other than the Baltimore Ravens. And whenever they took them on, the thing is Peyton came out and threw 7 touchdown passes, which ranked him up with 46 fantasy points. Not many other quarterbacks can brag about that. Not only that, he also tied an all-time NFL record for passing touchdowns in a game. He threw to 3 different receivers along with another one, but he didn't gather many fantasy points, so we didn't mention him here. Julius Thomas is a new tight end, just came out, and he is compared to the great New Orleans Saints player, Jimmy Graham. And he got 23 points off of 2 touchdowns and about 6 receptions. Demaryius Thomas is one of Peyton's more prominent receivers, and he still is this season. He was last season, he still is this season. He has 28 fantasy points, and none other than Wes Welker, the new addition to the old Patriots wide receiver, has been added to the Denver's roster, and he got 16 points last night off of 2 touchdown catches also. So anybody that thinks Denver's not for real, they're definitely for real, and this fantasy football update is just what's to come.
That's a great wrap-up on fantasy football. We're going to start by going on to college football, and we've came up with a couple pretenders and contenders. Josh, will you start that off with Stanford?
I would say, my personal opinion, that Stanford is a contender. They have a great running game. They're very well coached. They play great defense, and they can lose great players every year like Toby Gerhardt, Andrew Luck like they have in the past, and still perform great the next season. So that's why I'm taking Stanford as a contender.
That's good. Jay, what do you think about Stanford, contender or pretender?
I think Stanford is going to be a contender. I think that they have a good defense this season. I think that they're going to be a pretty decent team. I don't think that they're going to be the number one contender, but I think they're going to be in the top 5. I do believe so.
That's a great opinion. What do you think about Clemson, contender or pretender this year?
I am taking Clemson as a contender. Tyler Boyd is probably the best quarterback in the nation right now. He can throw the ball as good as A.J. McCarron and run it just as good as Braxton Miller can from Ohio State. And they have a bunch of great receivers, a great running game, and they are very, very fast on defense.
That's great. I also love the Clemson against Georgia game. That was a great game. What do you think, contender or pretender this year for Clemson?
Clemson is a contender. When you can take down an SEC powerhouse like Georgia on national television for your first game of the season, you're the real deal. You took down LSU last year, and you took down Georgia this year, and they were a top 5 team. They still had Aaron Murray, a superstar quarterback. I'm pretty sure you've got a chance of being a real contender.
That's good. Next up is Ohio State. What do you think, contender or pretender this year?
Despite having Urban Myers, their head coach, who is probably one of the best coaches in college football right now, and Braxton Miller is their quarterback, I'm taking Ohio State as a pretender. To me, they lost 7-8 starters off the defense, and that defense just isn't going to be as good as they were last year when they went undefeated, and Braxton Miller will not be able to carry that team.
Jay, what do you think about Ohio State?
Just as Josh said just a second ago, I would have to agree. They're definitely a pretender. I mean, sure, you got Urban Meyer as your coach, and he was a great Florida coach, and he's still a great coach today. But when you go 12-0 last season and you had an opportunity to take home a championship, you lost a lot of pieces in the draft. You lost a lot of pieces just over the offseason. You don't really have that opportunity like you should, to capture that next title because you had your opportunity stolen from you because of, being excluded from the BCS championship bowls.
That's great. Next up, we have Oregon. A little aggravated with Oregon because the first matchup was Nicholls State. I was looking for a little bit bigger contender, but let's move on to Josh. Do you think Oregon is a pretender or contender this year?
I think Oregon is a pretender just for that reason you said, scheduling teams like Nicholls State early in the season just to pad their schedule. To me, Oregon's all offense, no defense. You can score 66 points on Nicholls State all you want to, but when you face big-time teams, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Floridas of the world, the LSUs, you will not put up 66 points and you will not hold them to 3 points. I'm taking Oregon as a pretender.
You're definitely right on that. What do you think, Jay? Pretender or contender this year for Oregon?
I'm going to have to disagree. I think Oregon, if they don't take on any powerhouses, they don't take on any big-name schools, which their schedule usually consists of schools that aren't really that great. They usually take on people and beat them by 60, 70 points, and they run that quick offense. You don't really have too much to worry about. I think that Oregon pretty much, if they don't play somebody, an SEC powerhouse or an ACC team like Clemson, Oregon's going to be in the top 2, 3, maybe 4 at the least, because they don't play anybody, but they're always looked well upon in the coaches' standings.
Next up, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to take you back to Sweet Home Alabama, ranked number 1. We're going to ask if this is a contender or pretender this year. Start it off, Josh.
After week 1, I'm taking Alabama as a pretender, but I know better than that for the whole season, so I'm taking Alabama as contender for the full 12 weeks of the college football season. They didn't run the ball very well. The offensive line let a lot of pressure get to A.J. McCarron, but they had Nick Saban, and he's the best coach in college football. They've won 2 of the past 3 national championships, and I know they're going to get back on track. And the defense and the special teams was amazing, as it always is, so I'm taking Alabama as a contender.
Good choice. What do you think, Jay?
I would have to agree also. Alabama is definitely, looking like a pretender, especially in that first game. That first week, they really looked like they were out of sync. They looked like a flawed offense. But that defense is still that Alabama defense. The thing about it is Alabama's offense, A.J. McCarron he wasn't in sync with his receivers. He didn't have the opportunities, I think, because of that offensive line being so flawed. But you've got Nick Saban as your head coach. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, arguably the best. But I'll have to go with them still being a contender. One week when you go 35-10 against Virginia Tech, which is arguably probably the best defense you're going to play this season, I'm pretty sure that they're going to, still be a contender. My hopes are that they take home another national championship, which, wouldn't be too surprising.
Those are really great opinions on contenders and pretenders for college football this year. Next, we're going to move on to Super Bowl predictions, and after the Broncos and Ravens games to kick out the NFL football season, what do you think this year on your predictions for the Super Bowl?
Broncos are going to be amazing this season. Peyton threw for 7 touchdown passes last night. He hit more than one receiver for those touchdown passes, more than 2 receivers. He hit 3 or 4 different receivers for those touchdown passes. Not only that, their defense held the defending Super Bowl champions, the Baltimore Ravens, to 27 points. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but they would have had 17 if Trevathan hit this new kid that was a rookie, dropped the ball before he went into the end zone. Personal pick, Broncos are going to be there. But on the other side, in the NFC, we're going to see the San Francisco 49ers. They have arguably the best team. You could say the same for the Broncos, but they're missing Von Miller right now. Wesley Woodyard could be out for a little while. I say San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, Denver possibly in the Super Bowl. Those are my picks.
I'm actually going to agree on Jay with those predictions. Those are some great, really good predictions. What do you think this year, Josh?
I think exactly the same thing as Jay. The Broncos and the 49ers, that's who I'm picking to meet in the Super Bowl in February. Like Jay said, the Broncos have some guys missing on defense last night. Von Miller, he's missing. He's probably their best linebacker, and Champ Bailey, their best defensive back. Once those guys get back, you won't see anybody put 27 points up on the Broncos again. And the 49ers, they are known for great defense. They'll have another great one this year, plus Colin Kaepernick is their quarterback. He can run it, he can throw it, plus they have a bunch of great running backs and a great offensive line. As far as the winner, I think I will take the 49ers. I think it's just going to be their year. They have improved every year, and I don't see any reason why they won't this year.
It's a great opinion. Next up, we're going to start off with the MVP predictions. Last night in the Broncos and Ravens game, we got to watch Manning do his thing, and it was absolutely outstanding. I mean, I would have Manning for my pick for the MVP predictions. What do you think, Jay?
Peyton Manning, MVP pick already. Arguably, as I said, is probably going to be the MVP. He's a 4-time MVP right now. Not many people can boast that. Actually, if you want to be technical, no one except for Peyton Manning. Now, if we get into the specifics about who is going to be the MVP, after 7 touchdown passes in one game, we can't just jump to the conclusion and say, okay, Peyton's taking it home. Because there's still Adrian Peterson, who claims he's going to rush for 2,500 yards this season. He rushed for 2,097 last season. He almost beat Eric Dickerson's record. So I think that it's going to be between Peyton Manning and Adrian Peterson, just like last season. And the Broncos and the San Franciscos are both going to be in the Super Bowl talk. So I mean, I think it's going to be down to the 2.
What do you think about your MVP predictions?
I'm going to have to go with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. They got Eddie Lacy this year in the draft, and he's going to take a lot of pressure off of him in the running game, and he's going to complete a lot more passes this year, and he's going to actually have a play-action pass, which he hasn't had in years past, and that's going to help him a lot in his statistics. So I think that Aaron Rodgers will be the MVP this year.
Well, from college football to your MVP predictions, we've covered a lot in this talk show. Thank you for coming and joining us today. My name's Jessica Carter with my 2 co-hosts, Jay Riley and Josh Beasley.